Hey guys, let's talk for a minute about why we exercise and and then go into some different strategies for maybe the how to exercise. But for starters, once upon a time, um, people lived a much more active lifestyle in a more agrarian society where you're growing or hunting or producing your own food. There's a lot of physical demand that goes with that. And the more industrialized our society has become, the less active our lifestyles have become. And so we're kind of with our urban sprawl lifestyle, and even in our little, rural county, we have a lot more sedentary lifestyles than our ancestors did historically. And so that kind of puts us in the position of having to create more intentional movement in our lives rather than just our day-to-day being very physically demanding with running the farm or working the cows. And obviously, some of us still do that. There's still a lot more sitting down. Our food is very convenient. Our communication is very convenient. We don't have to walk a mile down to our neighbors to have a conversation. We can call them on the phone or shoot a text or something like that. We drive everywhere we go instead of walk or ride horses or wagons. So we just have a less active lifestyle just in general. And so we do what is a relatively novel concept, and that is exercise. And so that's something that we intentionally schedule into our day to kind of counteract the effects of a more sedentary, more convenient, comfortable lifestyle that we live. And when it was kind of the lifestyle, then the days would vary. Some days would be a lot of work and other days would be more restful. And so kind of a balance was built in to the rhythm of life of high intensity days, lower intensity days, and rest days. And so that's something in our purposeful exercise that we want to also incorporate. Some higher intensity days are really good for us. Some lower intensity days, that's kind of the default. And then our rest days are really important. We really want to make sure that we're incorporating some rest days so that our bodies have a chance to recover and rebuild to be able to tackle the demands of the following week, if we're going to break this down into a week framework, which is what we're going to do. So as you plan your training, some of us are kind of in the habit of like, well, exercise needs to be balls to the wall all the time because I sit at a desk the rest of the day. And that's not necessarily true. And what that can do, it can create some increased stress demand on our bodies that we don't really get a chance to recover from if it's that way all the time. You would think that sitting at a desk would be enough recovery from a high intensity workout, but it's not always. And in fact, if you talk to anybody who works in a desk job, you will find that it's actually more exhausting than the workout that they do in the morning, because you're there for 7-8 hours. It's physically, it's mentally demanding, and it's mentally draining, which also correlates to elevated cortisol levels, elevated stress levels. So we're not actually recovering from that workout as much as you'd think. So we want to balance that out by making sure that we're training smart. So on average, a good rule of thumb is if you have 2 to 3 high exercise days a week, and then 2 to 3 moderate exercise days a week, and then we want at least one complete rest day, and then we want another that's maybe some active recovery. And so if you work those numbers for how it works for you to be over a 7-day period, then you'll, in some weeks you'll need 2 active recovery days, depending on how your high intensity work days. Maybe you do 2 high intense work days that day, and 2 moderate intensity, and 2 lower impact or intensity days. active recovery type, and then your complete rest day. So you want to gauge it based on how you're feeling, how the previous work went, the previous week went. What are the demands of your daily life? If you're on your feet a lot, you're a teacher, you're a nurse, or something like that, you're on your feet a lot, you probably don't need to go super high intensity very often in your workouts. So the demands of your daily life are going to help to dictate how your training needs to look as well. You don't want to be like super high intensity every day and then you're going and standing on your feet and you just never get that rest. It's going to affect your sleep, it's going to affect your stress levels, it's going to affect your mental health. So just keep that in mind, especially with those of us who are accustomed to a moderate to high intensity day most days of the week. I want you to be intentional about being smart about how you train. Maybe we're not doing like RX all the time. Maybe we're doing a little bit more of that intermediate more often, and then on a day when you've don't have a lot going on, or you can, and maybe the day before your rest day, then you can really kick it up a notch. But on average, we want to kind of stay in that homeostatic, that happy place with our training where it's not interfering with our daily life and it's allowing us to have good recovery, good repair. So anyway, those are my thoughts on how to kind of structure your exercise week.